There is a moment, usually late at night, when the noise finally stops and you are left alone with the truth. Not the version you present to others, not the version you have rehearsed even for yourself, the real one. And in that moment, most people flinch. They reach for their phone, or drink, or some other quiet exit from their own mind. Because the truth, when it finally speaks, is uncomfortable. You already know exactly what you have been avoiding. You have known it for years. This is not a video about motivation. Motivation is a drug. It spikes, it fades, and it leaves you exactly where you started, just more disappointed in yourself than before. What follows is something else. Call it an autopsy. We are going to look, without flinching, at 4 quiet decisions that separate the life you are living from the life you sense you were built for. Not tips, not hacks. Structural truths about how a human being actually works and what happens slowly and then all at once when that structure is ignored. The first pillar is movement, and if you think this is about muscles, you have already misunderstood it. For most of human history, movement was not a choice, it was survival. Your body evolved as an instrument built for motion, to hunt, to flee, to carry, to build. When you spend the majority of your waking hours sitting still, you are not living within your own design. You are fighting it. And the body, unlike the mind, does not know how to lie to itself about that fight. It simply degrades, quietly, at a rate you will not notice until the damage announces itself. The Greeks understood this long before neuroscience gave us the vocabulary to explain it. A healthy mind can exist only in a healthy body, they said, not as decoration, but as an observation about how inseparably the two are fused. When you move, when you push against resistance and demand something from your own muscles, your brain responds with the actual chemistry of clarity. Dopamine, that sharpens focus, serotonin, that stabilizes mood, growth factors that keep the mind supple instead of foggy. This is not motivational language, it is measurable biology. Discipline in the gym is rarely, in the end, about the gym. It is rehearsal. It is you proving, in a private and controlled setting, that you will do the hard thing even when no one is watching, and no one will ever know if you quietly didn't. This is why movement builds far more than a body. It builds self-respect. Every session is a small, unwitnessed vote cast for the version of you that keeps its promises. And self-respect, once eroded, is far harder to rebuild than any muscle you ever let atrophy. But there is a part of this equation the culture of relentless effort conveniently forgets: recovery. Sleep is not weakness. Sleep is where the actual repair happens, physically, in the muscle tissue, and psychologically, in the mind's ability to regulate itself the next day. The person who trains without mercy but sleeps 5 broken hours a night is not disciplined. They are simply impatient, wearing the costume of discipline while quietly sabotaging the very result they are chasing. Growth does not happen only in the effort. It happens in the rest that follows it. A body and a mind denied recovery do not become stronger. They deteriorate more slowly than expected, and mistake that slowness for strength. The second pillar is nutrition. And here the metaphor is almost too obvious to need explaining. You would never pour the wrong fuel into an engine and expect it to befall. Yet most people do exactly that to themselves, meal after meal, without a second thought. Food is not simply fuel, it is information. Every meal sends a signal to your body about what kind of environment it should prepare for. One of steady energy, or one of inflammation, one of clarity, or one of fog. The sugar-heavy, heavily processed patterns that dominate modern eating spike blood sugar sharply and then crash it. And in that crash, your ability to concentrate, to regulate your emotions, even to resist the next poor decision, quietly collapses along with it. This is not, first, a moral failing. It is biology. But biology becomes psychology very fast, because a mind clouded by poor fuel will always find a way to rationalize the next poor choice as smaller, more forgivable than it actually is. There is a discipline buried inside nutrition that has nothing to do with vanity or appearance. Choosing what you eat, deliberately, meal after meal, is one of the few places in modern life where you retain complete control. No one else decides what enters your body. When you exercise that control with consistency, you are training a muscle more valuable than any visible one, the muscle of self-governance. And when you let convenience, craving, and impulse make every decision, instead, you are training the opposite skill just as efficiently. Surrender, one small capitulation at a time. An old proverb applies here with unsettling precision. We become what we repeatedly do, not what we intend, not what we tell ourselves in the moment. What we repeat, silently, until it becomes who we are. The third pillar is self-education, and it may be the most quietly dangerous one to neglect, because its absence does not announce itself. It does not hurt. It does not appear on a scale or in a mirror. It simply, slowly, narrows the size of your world until you stop noticing the walls. Consider what an unexamined routine actually does your mind. A mediocre job, repeated year after year without growth, without curiosity, without new information entering the system, teaches only one lesson, if you let it, to become comfortable with less. Not because the person trapped inside it is incapable of more, but because comfort is patient, and it erodes ambition the way water erodes stone, invisibly, and then completely. This is not a fixed law, and it is not true of everyone. It is worth holding as a warning rather than avert the comfort, left unquestioned long enough. This is why self-education is not a luxury reserved for the intellectually curious. It is a form of self-defense. Every book that unsettles an assumption you have never questioned, every idea you sit with instead of dismissing, every mentor whose hard-won experience you borrow instead of relearning their mistakes firsthand. These are all ways of refusing to let your world shrink to the exact size of your daily habits. Francis Bacon wrote that knowledge itself is power, and he meant something precise by it. The person who understands more sees more options. The person who stops learning does not simply stop growing. They slowly lose the ability to even imagine an alternative to where they already stand. Independent thought is rare, precisely because it is expensive. It is far easier to inherit an opinion than to interrogate one. But every belief you have never examined is a locked room in your own mind, one you have never actually entered. Self-education, at its core, is the discipline of walking through those rooms, one at a time, on purpose, even when what you find there is inconvenient. There is also a quieter danger in outsourcing your thinking entirely to institutions, algorithms, or the loudest voice in the room. Fortune favors the prepared mind, as Pasteur once observed, not the busy mind. The fourth pillar is discipline, and everything before this has, in truth, been building toward it. Because discipline is the single thread that ties the other three together. Here is what almost no one tells you about discipline. It is not punishment. It is not the gritted teeth, the joyless grind, the harsh internal voice most people picture when they hear the word.